So in this video we're gonna do this, which is a composition of different elements available in Terrain Mixer. So the mountain in the background was just repeated a few times. Then we have this nice clouds and this sky backdrop. We have some scanned elements in the foreground. We have the new system, which is TMNT surfaces, and that's this mud that you see here and some of the rocks here. And we gonna see how it's done in this long video, but you're gonna love it. Now we have also done this, all procedural, 100% procedural elements. You see the color variations, you see how it looks from the above. Here's the color texture, 100% procedurally. Height map, so you can make an unlimited number of these different variations. You can bake them and use them for your terrains, for films, games, or whatever you want. Another render, this time close up. As I said, the quality is very close to the scan data and you have a lot more freedom. So yeah, let's move forward. Terrain Mixer 2.2.3 is out, and I have some exciting news. First of all, I have reorganized the Terrain Mixer assets so they're more logical. Here you can see we have more than 100 tools available with Terrain Mixer, and they are separated in different categories. If we move forward, you can see that here we have the top category, or the root category, which is Terrain Mixer assets. And then if we would move forward, we would go to Terrain Mixer node tools, then Terrain Mixer node tool surfaces, 3D scans, curve objects, ground geo, shaders and materials, skies and clouds, terrains, and water. Now, the second big news is that TMNT surfaces are now available. This is what this video will be about. So let's start here. What you see in the left upper corner is the final composition, and below you can see how this scene was made. I'm starting with this on purpose because I just want to tell you how I have organized this, because this video will be mostly about close-up details, and here you don't see much of those, but they are here and they play a significant role in this composition, although they're not very pronounced in this particular image. Actually, this is not image yet, it is a 3D scene. So this is how it looks like, and I think it's a nice composition, very simple, but still it is good for presentational purposes. I'll start with the first element. It's only one element. Those are clouds. So it's the same cloud repeated over and over again. You can see it here. I'll just turn off the render preview. So these are the planes that were used to mix the micro details or the small details, and you'll see later on how I do it. Then we have 3D scans. This is the same scan, I just rotated a bit, and you can see the available scans inside the Terrain Mixer package. This is where I dragged and dropped it from. And then we have terrains. Also, you can find them here. For this particular case, I used this one, I think, the basic terrain. It's actually the same terrain, as you can see. I just duplicated a few times. Also, good to mention, what I do here is the ones that are closer to the camera, I set the resolution to be higher. So you can see here I have 7 subdivision levels, and for example here I have only 5. This one was only 6 because the color of it is not very pronounced, and you don't see details much. That's this one. So this one has the most details. After that, I have added this funny looking element, and this is actually the fake sky. You can find it here on the skies and clouds. I think this is the one, fake sky background. So this is just a part of the sphere that has texture applied on it. So if you would check the material, you can see it's here. So you can use different ones. You just plug it here. Now for the environment, let me go here. For the environment, I use this simple setup. This is also available here under the skies and clouds. This is fake skies world mat or the world material. So you just drag and drop it and you have it here as a world material. So this is basically the default look of it. I just use this mix color to add a bit of color to the environment. So you see how this looks now. And if I would change the color here, nothing changes. Oh yeah, of course. And this makes sense because this particular object, this backdrop, is not affected by the environment light. But if I would turn on something, for example, these terrains, you see what happened. Now let's do another change. Also, the change would be very noticeable if the clouds were enabled, so let's do that. And that's it. Let's move forward and let's talk about TMNT surfaces. So first, let's see what we got in this ground collection here. Now I'll turn off the render preview and turn off all the other collections. Keep the ground open for now, and we don't need to render those. Let's select this and zoom in. This one was named Rock. The other ones are just a copy of it. This one was named Mud. And as you can see here, I also have muddy material and rocky material. Let's preview it. Here's the mud. You can see it here. This is just the low quality preview because you can see that it only has 4 subdivision levels. Now let's check the rock. Here it is. First, we'll try to recreate something similar to this, hopefully better, and then we'll do the same for the mud. So let's start. Let's create a plane. Let's scale it 10 times. Control A to confirm all transforms. Let's subdivide it a few times. Back to the object mode. Now we're going to create a material. Let's call it Rocky, or yes, let's Rocky 2. Okay, Rocky 2. Now let's go to the object. And now we're going to go to the TMNT surfaces and we're going to drag a few of the nodes. So let's open this to see the subcategories and let's start with surfaces. I'll drag this rock bedrock, change the color of it, and I'll do the same for others as well, just so you know which nodes we have dragged from this assets library. So rock bedrock, then rock cracks, then we're going to use rock rocks, and then we're going to use stones. These are just descriptive names. You can combine all these nodes. The more time you spend, the better and more detailed results you will get. Let's go to the power nodes and we'll drag this fast distort, and let's also use this multi-blend. Place it here. Shift A to use the texture coordinate. So texture coordinate goes here. And also I'm gonna use one of these profiles. And I think that's it. Maybe later on I can use this melt node, although not sure. We'll see about that. I can also use this noise master if I'll be doing some texturing, which I might. Oh yes, so one other thing I need is this shader node, and let's color it as well, something like this. Okay. What I like to do, besides coloring everything, I like to frame things logically. So this will be mapping, and I'll also write the name of it, because later on I will share this file with the TMNT users. So I'll label this mapping. This will be let's call it terrain mix. I can add this one here as well. Let's call this just color and texture. This will be final material setup, and let's start connecting this. Before I do that, I will add subdivision modifier and use the simple option, and also divide it enough times so we can see the change of the surface. Please enable cycles and GPU compute. Also, when setting up the material, make sure to go to the settings where it says displacement, choose displacement and bump. Very often you will be able to get good results even without the displacement, especially if you want to create something like a mud that doesn't have big differences in height. But for this particular case, we'll use the displacement as well. So now let's start connecting things. Now, I will mostly be previewing things in black and white, because that way I know what details I can get. I'll also add mapping node, one here, and also I'll make another one, place it here, so I have more options. And what I can also do is use another mapping node if I want to control everything with a single slider. Let's connect these 3 or 4, like so. And I usually start with the rock bedrock and connect it to input A, then rock cracks to the input B, and now I have this mix AB, and also connect rocks to the C and stones to the D. Now here I'm mixing A and B, these two inputs, and I can preview them here, and also C and D, which are these two inputs, and I can preview them with this. When you want to mix everything, you use this output. Now let's see what we got so far. Interesting. I already see that I should scale some elements a bit. So let's start with the rock bedrock and rock cracks. Okay, this is still not big enough, but I can already do some settings here. The cool thing with this is that since it's all procedural, I can just easily keep these values and just change the scale like so. This is why I said that it's good to have one mapping node to control the scale of all the nodes after it. This is already something. I can already test the look of the current setup. For that, I need to plug this displacement to the displacement of the material output. You can use this one to get a 10 times greater value. Let's think a bit why the displacement is not showing up. Let's increase displacement intensity. Still not working. Why is that? So let's go and check one more time. Here it says that displacement and bump will be used. So what is wrong? I like having problems like this, because then I can show you how to fix it when you're in the same situation. And I think I know what the problem here is. I think we forgot to plug the value here. Let me just plug this back here. Let's test it now. You can see the height difference. Let's plug this one. Okay, now we can lower down these values. Now I need to work with details. So here you see, if I preview this one, Control Shift click, of course, for this to work, you have to use the node wrangler. So if I Control Shift and click on the rock bedrock, I can see the value that it has. Also the same if I would click to the rock cracks, rock rocks, and rock stones. And this kind of workflow allows me to be a lot more efficient. So here I already see I don't like this hard, sharp edges. So I will definitely smooth this. And I think I'll increase the strength a bit. At any point, you can add the nodes that come with Blender. So for example, here I could add brightness and contrast node like so. So for example, And maybe this is something I want to continue work with. I think I'll go back to the rendered view per shading because it seems that it works faster. It might be because of the modifiers that we have applied on this plane. I'm not sure. Let's move back to the rock bedrock. I think I want to increase some of the values here. So let's make these elements larger. And now if I preview the cracks and the bedrock, and this is not how I'm going to preview it because this goes here and we're previewing what goes to the surface input of the material output. So we can drag it here and connect it here. Yep. So this is what we got. We can change how the cracks affect the bedrock. Something like this might work. Now let's check how the displacement works so far. I think it's good. Also, I like to have the background disabled. For that, you go to the film and transparent. Now you see there's no background. Now let's see what we get when we add these two. Okay, not much yet, but we can plug this here and play with it a bit. So let's go press 7 to see it from the above. And now we'll make the rocks a bit smaller, and to do that we change the density like so, and maybe change their height. So now we can also pronounce the stones a bit more, and let's see how it looks now. Okay, now already something is happening. So let's increase the value, add it to the mix. So you see now that these smaller elements, which are the C and D, are appearing inside of these cracks here. And that's exactly what we want. Let's rotate it a bit and let's preview what we have now for the displacement. Okay, so this is already something. Now to spice up things a bit, we can play with additional node, and that's the profiles. So if we would plug the profiles here, you see that the profile is visible here and it affects the bedrock. We have different options for that. And you can also adjust this value here. You can add additional blending, and you can also change the power in case you want to. This looks fine. Now I want to add additional level of details, and to do that I will go to the surfaces and add these micro details here. I also need to adjust the mapping, so duplicate this one, plug it here, and let's preview what we have. Okay, looks nice. Let's make them a bit smaller, like so. I can decide where I want to apply these details. So I don't think I need them where the cracks are, because that wouldn't make any sense. I want to have them on top of that bedrock. Let's do this. Let's add something like, I could use this fast boolean or fast blend. This one would be useful, but we can make it more simple and just go for maybe color mix. And let's plug this here. Let's plug this here. Let's preview what we got now. So this is it. And let's use this cracks value as the factor. So now I only have it applied on the bedrock. We can lower down the intensity and maybe use the multiply. Okay, I think I want to have them even smaller than this. So I'll increase the amount. Here it is. Now let's preview it with the material. Okay, I can already see that the effect is much stronger than I want it to be. I'm talking about these micro details, so I'll do some more adjustments. we're on a good track here because now we see all the elements that we want. They are separated, and now we can adjust all of them. The cool thing here is that I can use any of these outputs as mask. This is why you want to preview things like so. Here you have a lot more details and a better understanding of what is going on. Now, I just want to see how brutal are these micro details and how they should be adjusted. So let's do test render. Okay, I see that there is a problem. So let's go here and select the plane object and increase the render level was just too low. We can even type in 7 and see what we got now. Okay, we can stop the rendering here now. I already see that, as I was afraid, the details are just too pronounced. Let's kill those details now. Let's come here and let's kill this contrast. Let's render one more time. Okay, now this is already a lot better. I will skip some parts because this seems to be taking too long already. What I want to show you now is, let's preview the height again. What I want to show you now is that I can use any of these outputs, any of these values as a mask. And for that, I can use this fast boolean maybe, not the only option, and place it somewhere here because I'll use it for the texture. This noise master, which I have also dropped to this node setup, is a very powerful node. If I use another mapping node, you'll see why it's such a big deal. So this one gives a lot of power when it comes to texturing, and if you combine it with this node here and also with the height output, just pay attention to the black and white values and everything in between. So if you would combine all this together, you would get some very, very interesting results. Uh, Another cool thing about this node is that if I zoom a bit, you can see that we can use this two blur option. One is just blur. It kind of follows the direction of the flow of the texture, and blur spread blurs it from the center. If, of course, you're using the texture coordinate object output here. Just as a simple example, if I would use Shift A mix color here and use this, you see that I get very interesting option for my mask, which I could use later on for coloring. I can even use multiply, and then this is what I get. This is very, very powerful. I think I'll use it a lot for this particular terrain. So you see, if I use it as a color factor, now I already get a lot more interesting result. Now it's time to use this fast distort, and I want to apply it on the bedrock. Go here and do this. So with and without, we get very different results. If you're after something realistic, maybe don't go too extreme with it, but I think you can always have some fun when creating. Now let's do another test render. Okay, this is really weird and not what I'm after, so I'll do some adjustments here. Now it's interesting how it affected this mix between the bedrock and the micro details. Yeah, don't want it here definitely. This is just for testing purposes. Now let's do another render. And before I do it, I think I'll change the colors a bit. I think this is a lot better. I will increase the width of those cracks now. Since this already looks a lot better, I will just continue working on it without necessarily commenting it. And I will try to use only the tools that we have available here in this node tree setup. So you probably now understand the logic. So here we're playing with the mapping. This all is the same node. Here we're mixing the three levels of details, and we're mixing it with the multi-blend node. Here and there we're using what Blender already offers us, so brightness and contrast here, and here just for testing to check the micro details that we have added here. And for additional complexity, we have added profiles. All this is mixed with the multiply, and then we have texturing going on here. First, we're playing with the masks. We might use the fast boolean as well, and we're combining these masks with the height values, black and white values, to get the final mask, the final texturing for our terrain. Of course, I will try to make it look as good as possible, and you just keep watching. At the end, I might add additional comments on that. Later on, we'll do the same with mud. It will be a lot easier and more simple process, I think. So, under the surfaces at the bottom, there are two rough nodes, and I think for now I'll take this one and I'll combine it with the results of this rocky surface setup, so we get more details in this area here. So let me first think, what have I used to isolate the bedrock. So let's see, we had a combination of rock, bedrock, and cracks. This is the AB combination, and then we combined it with profiles. Okay, now I'll just grab this, I'll copy this multiply, place it here, and then I'm gonna drag this rock cracks as a factor. Same thing I did here, like so. Now I need to plug this rough texture to mapping, or vice versa, mapping to rough texture. So instead of creating the new one, I think for now I'll use this same mapping, like so. Let's see now if we check it how it looks now. Oh, I think I did a mistake here, did I? Yes, I'm doing something wrong, that's for sure. So we had this plugged in earlier, right? Sorry. Earlier we had this plugged in, and now we want to combine it with this. So I want to keep this inside of this, but I want to change this. That's what we want. Okay. Now let's adjust this again. Let's see. Now, when you're using lighten, the problem might arrive if this value, this bedrock value that it's already set, is stronger or brighter of than this other value. Then what you should maybe consider is using the add, like so. So you already see that something did change. Now let's do render with the material. Yeah, I think this looks promising. I like the amount of details, definitely. I would like to avoid this polygon stretching here, but I like the amount of details. I can already imagine what would happen if we would have water here and different coloration at the bottom where these pebbles and rocks are. For example, something greener or reddish orange maybe, or combination. If you imagine that there will be also water ripples, then this different coloration of a bottom in combination with this bedrock would give a nice foreground visual. Somewhere in the background we can put mountains or forest or whatever we want. So let's see what can we do with texturing of this bottom layer. And also I might do some more adjustments to this surface. So I'll use this inverted cracks mask to isolate the bottom. Then what I can also maybe use is this CD output, and that's the combination of rocks and rock stones, or maybe just one of them. So let's see what we got here. Okay, this could be useful in combination with that cracks mask. So let's use this one. Let's plug this here. Let's make another multiply and use this as a factor. This is that cracks inverted mask, and then we can use this one. For now, we'll plug it here and make this color fully black, like so. And this should give us an interesting result. Now, obviously, I have isolated something that I didn't want. This is what I want. So we actually don't need this invert color. I think I'll frame this and call it bottom. That is that. So with this mask now, we can have different coloration for the bottom. And to explain what I mean, I can use another mix color. I can use this as a factor. And now I can, for example, use the black here and something like this here. Of course, you can use the combination of maybe noise. So for example, I could use, we have this noise texture here available. So I can combine this or make another noise and combine it with this. So for example, I could have this orange color defined by this noise. But for now, let's just see how we can apply this color to the current texture that we have. So we are using this as a factor for combining these two colors. Now, this means that the result of this mix is just spreading these two colors. And so where the white is, I believe that this darker blue will be, and where the dark or the black is, this light blue will be. So let's check that. It is not what I said. So actually, it's the opposite. So we can make it red. This red color is where the black areas are of the mask. Okay, so now we want to combine this with this. And how do we do that? So basically we have two masks now, this one and this one. Okay, and we want to use this one to define the bottom. Let's take another mixed color node, place it here. So we have this and this. And for example, let's just make this blue for now. So it looks like this. And now we have the two colors that we want to use. Now we have to combine these masks. And for that, we can also use another mix node. Use this same cracks mask as a factor. And plug this mask here and this mask here. And let's see. So yes, that's what we want. Now we can use this. Actually, that's not what we want. So we do have a separation that we wanted, this and this, but we'll still have to use this crack mask to separate the colors as well. So let's see. Okay, so we can use this mask for this and for this, like so. So let's preview this one. Let's preview this one. And now we need to separate this with that same mask. There's probably an easier way to do this. I'm just doing it on the fly, not thinking too much because I don't have time for that when doing this video, but it should work. So let's separate like so, and let's plug this one here and this one here, and let's see what we have. So now we have separated these two, and as mentioned, you don't have to use only the procedural sources here, and this is what we're doing in this video, only using procedural sources. So you can even use the image texture and apply it. So you would get even more details. But let's see what we got now. So you just plug it in both sockets, and then you get the desired result. Let's render this. So we already have a lot better situation here, and I really like the result, the combination of the colors, and what I mentioned previously. If we would add water somewhere to this line, you would see this interesting reddish orangish rocks and pebbles, and everything else would be above it. Then you have all this bluish texture and so on. So it's already very interesting. A lot of details are available for us. And now we can move forward. I can play with two additional tricks here. So if I would add the map range, I could play with the height of this terrain. So in this way we could fix those tricky elements that appear a bit too high, in my opinion. You don't have to limit yourself only to this set of nodes, because we have other nodes available in other packages, of course, if you have them. So, for example, If we would check AAA material, the interesting one is, let me just open to see the subcategories. So we have an interesting note here. It's called Mask Natural, and this can give us even more details, especially color details. So if I would drag this one here, this is just to show you that you can combine other tools as well. So let's just color it to make it obvious that it doesn't belong here. So I can preview it right away. And I think I'll have to add mapping to it. I'll use this. It's the closest one. So you can already see that we can get a lot of details with this. So let's just do a fast test now. We could get something like this. Adding the hue saturation node. Now this will just give us a nice coloring for the bottom area. So let's check it now. So you see a lot more vivid and a lot more interesting. So let's even rotate this camera a bit. Let's see if we change the rotation of the sun. I think you'll agree with me that this looks fantastic. Here I have done another experiment, a fast experiment while working on the video, and let me just show you what is different here. So I just added a few more of these mix nodes and I just combined the color source. It was this one, if you remember. And then we have used the hue saturation value and I just killed the saturation a bit. Previously it was something like this, and the hue value was something like this or similar. And then I combined the cracks mask as we did before, and then I combined this color with the height input and then mixed it, and I got something like this. So if we would preview the material, this is what we have now. If I would change the camera to maybe this, we would get this nice looking stone material with the bottom in different colors. So let's just lower down the sun a bit like so, and maybe even adjust the color here, something closer to the sunset color. And you still see this subtle coloring of the bottom. Of course, it would look better with the water on top, but use your imagination. So we have this interesting coloring on the bottom, very subtle, and this grayish color on top. So let's just do another test render. Maybe a bit too white, I must say, and maybe a bit too much of a subsurface scattering applied to the rock, from lighten to maybe soft light. And let's render this one. In my opinion, this is even better result, so it looks a lot more interesting and realistic. I think we're done with this part. I'm a bit tired to repeat this process for creating the mud. I have already done one recording of it, so I'll just explain what is going on. So yeah, let's see what we got there. So let's see what I did with the mud for that scene with a few mountains and clouds. Now, first, I have created a plane and I have subdivided it a few times just to get more resolution before I use the subdivision modifier. And uh, this is just in case you want to use the displacement on your surface where mud material will be applied. Now, I did a mistake with the naming here because I started working on a plane that was named Rocky, and actually I started working on the mud, same as material, but mistakes happen. Now, first I dragged a few of the nodes that I wanted to start to work with, and under the TMNT surfaces shaders, I dragged the 2 by 2 BSDF. Now, this 2 by 2 just means that it is adjusted to work on a default Blender plane, which is 2 by 2 meters. Of course, it's not written in stone. You can use it on a larger terrains as well. It's just so you have a easier start. Then I drag the mud mixer and mud primary and mud secondary, and mud mixer is used to combine these two to make your life easier to get perfect results faster. Now I have changed to cycles render engine and GPU, and under the settings I have set the displacement and bump to be used for the displacement for the reason I mentioned before. Here, if we enable the render preview, we see what we currently have. I have adjusted the light as well. I tend to use sun, and later on I think I'll disable this light and just set the sun in the environment settings, which is under the world material. So here we're combining the mud primary and mud secondary, and also I used this fast distort, which is used for mapping effect, and I'm plugging it to texture coordinate, and I'll also be adding a mapping node later on. Of course, you need to connect the mapping to the vector socket of the mud primary and mud secondary. So this is what we got now. This is the preview of the material. No elevation is currently visible, and that's because we haven't plugged the displacement output to the displacement input of the material. And now you see that things started to happen, and we already have some results. Now I'm just adjusting the height or the displacement scale. Right away you see that you have something that's rather usable. The height of the material, the height value is already affecting the roughness as well, which is helpful, of course, because you don't have to think about it. Now we're going to do some distortion with a fast distort. A bit of mixing and setting the mix influence between the two sources, and you have a bunch of sliders here. This node, this mud mixer node, will be updated in the future releases because some values, some sliders don't work as I planned them to, but this will be sorted out later on. Now here you can adjust the effect and the ratio between larger and smaller details, and we can still add more details to this, and we will do so with the micro details node, but for now this is already looking good. Since the difference in height for this particular material, which is mud, is not so important, you don't even have to use the displacement. You can work with the bump only, and you would get very similar results. And of course, the rendering would be much faster because you need a lot less geometry for that. But for this, we use the displacement anyway. Here's a fun little note. It's called profiles. You have a bunch of profiles available. This affects the height of the displacement and adds even more intricate details, like with sharper edges. And I use this a lot. It really makes a difference, especially when working with the rocky surfaces. And that's basically the whole workflow. All you have to do is move sliders, add distortion if you wish, add micro details, which will happen right after this, and that's it. Of course, you can change the color of the mud, and you see that you have two colors available, just as you had with the rocky surface. And of course, you can plug other sources as well. The height value, of course, same as before, controls the distribution of these colors. And of course, you can adjust this further. So here I was looking for a terrain just to use it as a backdrop to give me a better perspective of possible scenario, and this is not so relevant for this video because these terrains are just ready to use objects that you can place into your scene. Very useful as well. As you can see, I'm still using the name Rocky for this muddy surface, and the name of the material is still rock, but I have changed that later. The colors are off, everything is off, but we do get a sense of the scale of the future terrain, and this is why I am combining this in the scene. I wouldn't recommend that you follow this procedure. This is just for the purpose of making this video so you understand what is possible with the TMNT surfaces. Usually, if I would do this for a client, I would block things out, use simple elements, and then at the end of the process of the composition, of the frame composition of elements, I would replace them with the final elements that have all the necessary details and colors. Do the composition first, and then one by one sort the elements and bake the details into them, and so on. What you can also do is you can use the renders of your elements. So for example, you don't have to use this 3D model of a mountain. You can just render it and use it as a plane in the background. You would get almost identical result, and it would be a lot easier for your machine to handle the viewport rendering. Here I'm adjusting the camera because I want to use a wider angle, and also I'm setting the clipping to have this mountain visible in the background. Here I added a mapping node to adjust some values, the scale of the mud details, also the displacement value because I want to have it more pronounced in the foreground. Of course, all this was just playing with settings to see what I can get. Later on, you'll see that this will be totally lost. All the foreground details are not that visible. They do play a significant role, but they are not that visible. They are kept in darkness, and you just see some reflections, and the focus of course is on the mountains in the background. In the foreground you see mud, and then you see some scanned elements. As mentioned, this is just so you can see what is possible. This is more like experimenting while recording. I think this is enough for this part of the tutorial. Please have fun using the TMNT surfaces. You can do a lot more with this. These files for both the rocky surface and the muddy surface will be available to all the TMNT users. Join our Discord and ask questions there. Cheers.